as we do every single Thursday, got to get to our final thoughts and predictions for this upcoming week. Now, we've already given you our game predictions, so I don't want to lead you astray and tell you we're picking a game right now. We're not. We're predicting what we think is going to happen within some of these games. And the game of the week, without question, is Red River. It's Texas. It's Oklahoma. It's back and forth over the last couple of years, rather. I mean, Texas won big last year in this game. Oklahoma looking to get back on top. Oklahoma had a nice streak of wins previously. So Texas in this game, I think the prediction for me is that Xavier Worthy is going to do numbers like Goodwill Hunting. Like, I think he just has an enormous game. One, because they're going to try to force feed him. Similar to, I think, what we saw against Alabama. They're going to go fast, get him the ball in space, get him a matchup they like, and they're going to feed him. All right, that's how it's going to go. But I think on top of that, the aggression that Oklahoma plays with defensively, they're going to try and dial it up. They're going to try and create pressure. They're going to try and harass Quinn Ewers. And so when Quinn Ewers gets pressure, he's looking for his outlet, which I think a lot of times could be Xavier Worthy. I think it might be Xavier Worthy with how you draw it up in this kind of game. And the ultimate, I think, counter to aggression is speed, is quickness, is decisiveness. And I think those are all things that Xavier Worthy embodies. I think he'll go for a big day. I see him going over 100 yards receiving, one, if not multiple touchdowns. I think number one, snaps in a very real way in Red River. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're dialed in. College football, only college football, every single day of the year. We want y'all a part of this now. We're right around halfway. Get everybody in here. It's a team effort. It's a program effort. We want y'all a part of this, so make sure you're subscribed. We appreciate y'all in advance for that. Now, on the other side of things, for Oklahoma, kind of a final thought on this one, not so much a prediction, but if Oklahoma wins this football game, I think Jeff Lebby deserves a ton of credit. A ton of credit, because you look at this Texas defense, and they're really good personnel-wise. I don't think this is a world where Oklahoma goes just straight up and says, our guys versus your guys, let's go. Not to say Oklahoma doesn't have some matchups they like, but I don't think it's a situation where you play Texas straight up. So what does that mean? If it's not a personnel situation, what does it become? A manipulation situation if you're the offensive coordinator for Oklahoma, which is Jeff Lebby. So for Oklahoma, I would look for them in this game to show some things that we haven't seen yet to this point in the year. I would look for them to do a lot of pre-snap movement and try and get this Texas defense running. And Oklahoma and how they've operated so far to this point in the year, if they're able to get some rhythm, that's when they become dangerous. And I think movement pre-snap and getting isolation with Andrew Anthony and with Nick Anderson, that would, I think, help create rhythm and help create big plays. So again, the chess game for Jeff Lebby against Texas is going to be crucial. And if Oklahoma wins, I think you got to look at the offensive side of the football for them being able to probably match scores with Texas, because I don't think you just stop Texas as a whole offensively. Jeff Lebby will have called a game if Oklahoma wins in Red River. Believe that. For Georgia, it's no secret, man. The task is the task this week. Like, it's out there for everybody. We all understand what it is. Like, it's Kentucky coming down the pipe here. And Kentucky, if you watch that tape against Florida, it was just a clinic on how offensive linemen get downhill on power, on truck, and just assert their will on the second level of the defense. Kentucky's going to be physical in this football game. And so my prediction for Georgia is this is the week where this line of scrimmage for Georgia on the offensive and defensive side of the football really kind of show themselves to be Georgia-ish. Like, we've seen Georgia kind of try to find their footing the last couple of games, and ultimately I think their traits and their talent and their depth have been what has won them the football game these last couple of weeks. But in this game, man, like, you've watched it all week on tape if you're a Georgia football player. You've watched Kentucky and what they did to Florida ad nauseum. The mission is clear. The task is very much so in front of you. You better bring the hard hat and the lunch pail for this one. And I think for Kentucky and for Georgia in this game, like, my bet is that Kirby Smart will have Georgia dialed in. And when the mission is clearly defined, I don't know there's a better coach in college football right now than getting their team ready to play than Georgia and Kirby Smart. Like, just kind of the way that it has been the past couple of years. Like, when you understand what's in front of you, hey, Kentucky, they're not going to be tricky. I'm sure they'll do some things they haven't done over the course of the season because it's Georgia. They're going to throw the kitchen sink at them. But, like, at the end of the day, the identity for Kentucky is what it is. They're going to be physical. They're going to get downhill. They're going to give it to Ray Davis. and they're going to try and make you say uncle. Yes, they'll probably try and get the ball to their playmakers too. That's another conversation. But in this game, that will be plan A for them. I think this Georgia defense, like I said, is locked and loaded. They're ready to roll. Kirby Smart has them ready to roll with the way that they prepared this week and just the ultimate motivation factor that Kirby Smart's going to supply for this football team. So I can't wait to watch that one. But again, I think this is the week the Georgia-Atlanta scrimmage looks the way they're supposed to look and looks the way we expected them to look way back during talking season. This last one here might be my favorite. We don't talk a lot of Ole Miss on this show just because, quite frankly, y'all haven't showed a ton of demand for Ole Miss on this show. But I think we got to talk about this right now. Like, I think it's time after this week for us to start talking about Jackson Dart in that Heisman conversation. Now, before you get after me, we understand the Heisman, it's a November award. We really don't do too much Heisman talk on this show because there's no real point until November. I mean, the Heisman is a beautiful part of what college football is, but we understand, like, we don't want to get too ahead of our skis with the Heisman talk. But I'll just say this, Jackson Dart and the way that he's answered the call to action at Ole Miss after they brought in two individuals via the transfer portal to try and take his job in Oxford, nothing short of elite. And he has solidified himself at the very least as a program guy. And he's got the first team all flow awards. He's got the lettuce hanging out of the back of the helmet and it looks sick. He's got the best cleat game in college football, whether he's wearing like the Jordan 11 cleats, whether he's wearing like the Jordan 1 cleats. Like the dude just comes to play on the cleat side of things every single week. He's fresh to death. And also he throws his body around for his team like he's got spare parts laying around on the sideline. Like, he just lowers his shoulder on linebackers, defensive backs. He's trying to jump over people. He plays the game with reckless abandon. And for us, that's good for the sign of approval for Jackson Dart. We love the way he plays the game, love everything about it. But the way that he's elevated his game this year is the reason why we got to have this conversation around him being potentially in that Heisman conversation. Look at what he's doing right now. Ole Miss scoring 38 points a game. It all goes through Jackson Dart. The RPO system, you ask your quarterback to make quick decisions, to make good decisions, and to get the ball to playmakers. He's done that. That's why they're scoring how they're scoring. That's why they won the football game last week. They have a real chance to play for a title in Atlanta. We understand the Heisman now, as much as it's given to an individual, your team has to be proudly in that college football playoff conversation. If you're playing for the SEC, I don't know. We'll see what happens with Ole Miss, but you would have to imagine that Jackson Dart's doing some good things and Ole Miss is doing some good things. 11 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, also 4 rushing touchdowns, 64% completion percentage. A season ago, Jackson Dart had a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. He has taken his game and leveled up tremendously. All right, Bugs Bunny probably gave him some of Mike's secret stuff. I don't think that is something that gets you flagged for an NCAA drug test. So there you go. I think that they're going to roll past Arkansas this week, and I think that's why he launches himself more into this conversation. But look at the resume or the ramp rather for Jackson Dart that could lead to this conversation having some more juice to it. They got a bye this week. Then they're at Auburn. They got Vanderbilt. They got A&M. Here's the big one now. Here's that Heisman moment. If you're circling it, this is the one. At Georgia, November 11th. Who knows what Ole Miss is? Who knows what Georgia is at that point in time? But for Jackson Dart, if he pops in a game like that, I think you got to start talking about him a little bit more seriously in the Heisman Trophy conversation. At that point in time in November, like that's the Heisman moment to have. But I just want to throw it on your radar here. Jackson Dart is balling. We love, respect, appreciate the way that he plays the game. He's a program guy through and through. And yeah, he's been spinning it. We got to show Jackson Dart some love on this show, especially the way that his whole offseason went with him trying to get replaced. They brought somebody in to try and replace Jackson Dart, man. They brought somebody in to try and replace him. No worries. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.